going on, my peoples? You are now tuned in to the thought of TRANE, and you're taking another trip down memory lane with me, fourth quarter TRANE. Now, today's trip down memory lane leads us to a stop at another great single, which is appropriately titled Wake Up by Brand Nubian. Wake Up was released November 7th, 1990, and produced by none other than Grand Puba. Now, this was the first single from the One For All album, which is Brand Nubian's first album, and is one of the first albums that received a 5 mic rating from the source. Critically acclaimed, but also controversial for its content centered around the teachings of the 5 percenters, also known as NGE, short for Nations of Gods and Earths. Now, All For One and Slow Down, those were the most notable, obvious singles that comes to mind when mentioning this album. Now, Wake Up would have been on that same level if not for the lyrical content and the video that was banned from MTV for a black man in white face portraying the devil. Now, ironically, it was banned from MTV even with it being directed by, at that time, one of the biggest faces on that network. And he goes by the name of the great Fab Five Freddy from Yo MTV Raps fame. Now, the original version, which was the Stimulated Dummies mix, it was produced by SD50, aka Dante Ross. And if you don't know about Dante Ross, you never heard of him, you need to do your Googles on this man, because he was one of the greatest A&Rs in hip-hop history. When he was an A&R for the label Tommy Boy, he helped find and sign acts such as De La Soul, Queen Latifah, Digital Underground. Then he moved on to be an A&R for Elektra Records. And there is where he helped find and sign acts such as Del the Funky Homo Sapien, Pete Rock, CL Smooth, KMD, which we know for the late and highly great MF Doom. That's where he started. Leaders of the new school, Old Dirty Bastard, and of course the group that we're talking about today, Brand Nubian. Now, in this version, which was dope in its own right, it used the same exact lyrics as the remix, which we're talking about right now. But it's the remix. That's where this song reached its full potential. The usage of Ray Goodman and Brown's Another Day, along with Roy Ayers' Everybody Loves the Sunshine, it used a vocal sample from that on the hook, which is the reason why this song is called Wake Up, Reprise and the Sunshine mix, because of Everybody Loves Sunshine. So those components, it gives this song a slower pace, soulful landscape that allows Puba message to breathe and fully hit home the way it was naturally intended to. Now, I'm going to quote a few bars right here that was spoken from Grand Puba. And some of these bars are part of the reason that led to the controversy around not only this single and the video, but the album as a whole. It led to a lot of the controversy that helped shut down some of the success for this album, commercial-wise. So let's go ahead and speak some of those bars. I guess I'm like the verbalizer for the fact I'm moving backwards. This Asiatic black man is a dog spelled backwards. Now, of course, we know dog spelled backwards is God. The black man is God. The black man was God, and he is God, and he'll forever be God. And when we're preaching that and teaching that to one another, of course, certain people do not want that. And we'll speak on that soon. Let's move on. Preacher got my old earth putting money in a pan. For the rest of the week, now I'm eating out a soup can. Now, if you ever went to church when you was younger or now, you didn't have to be a heavy churchgoer to understand that line at all. In other words, Big Mama, our mamas, our grandmamas, they go to church on Sunday. Always hearing the preacher man, whether he's in church or he's on TV being a fake bootleg evangelist, always preaching to her and to us. If you don't take 10% of your earnings and put it in a plate, you're a sinner. You're a heathen. You're not doing the works of God. Big mama hearing that, or mother's hearing that, or grandmother's hearing that message. They go ahead and take whatever they have, stuff it in a plate, and then for the rest of the week, she's struggling to take care of us, struggling to put clothes on our back, struggling to send us to school, struggling to put food on the table. But she put that 10% or whatever she had in that plate, and that's all that mattered when it came to the preacher man. Let's move on to another bar. The solution, knowledge of self to better ourselves, because I know myself that we can live much better than this. Nothing's changed. It's just another sequel. The devil still causing trouble amongst the righteous people. Drugs in our community, that ain't right. Can't even get a job, that ain't right. Poisoning our babies, that ain't right. Lying who was God, that ain't right. Now, if I wanted to further drive a point home, I'll just finish rapping the rest of that song in its entirety. But I don't need to, because the message right there is self-explanatory. The devil, and of course the person and the devil that he's referring to he's calling the white man the devil. The devil is implementing things in our community to pit us against each other, to keep us down. They fear us teaching one another. And that is one of the direct reasons why this type of hip-hop was removed from the mainstream and replaced with today's music. Now, that's a whole nother story and a whole nother episode for a whole nother day, but you get the point, and we can speak on that a little further on down the road. So let's just transition, move up a little bit, and speak on the performance of this album itself, One for All. Now, the album debuted number 130 on the Billboard 200, where it spent 28 weeks there. Like I said before, it wasn't huge commercially, but in the black neighborhoods of cities such as New York and Philadelphia, it outsold all other platinum-selling rap releases at that time. Now let's speak on the actual performances of the One for All album. Now, heavily noticeable is Grand Puba performing the lion's share of the album on his own. Now, being that was an intentional vision and decision on his part, it caused tension between the group, and it led the Grand Puba partner ways for a while to pursue his solo career. Now, while Puba may have been the standout artist with his own classic albums, such as Real to Real and 2000, the two-man duo version of Brand Nubian, which is Sadat X and Lord Jamar, they held down the fort on their own as well, dropping classic albums on their own. In God We Trust, which spawned and created a top 10, if not top 5 anthem of all time when it comes to hip-hop. Punks Jump Up to Get Beat Down. And they also recorded Everything Is Everything. Now, they came back together, they regrouped in 1998 to record the Foundation album. Now, if you never heard this album, after you finish listening here, you can treat yourself and slide on over to Tidal or Spotify or wherever you listen to music. And like I said, treat yourself. That was a very super dope album, Foundation. Now, with that project, they recorded material together off and on ever since. But it's the original core and the first version of the group, which consisted of DJ Alamo, DJ Sincere, DJ Stud Doogie, rest in peace Stud Doogie, who passed away a few years ago, Derek Sadat X, Lord Jamar, and of course, Grand Puba Maxwell. That's where the chemistry meshed and shined at its brightest. Speaking of Brand Nubian, they're probably the only group that I know that can give you the mathematics for the day, break down the amount of skins that they hit that afternoon, and then run up on a female at the end of that evening and let her know that she needs to put an end to her hoish ways. All in the same song, without coming off disingenuous at all. At all. And now that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we like to call seamless chemistry. And at their peak, when they was together, they had plenty of it. Now, I spoke about the commercial or lack of success of the One For All album. Now, to this day, you don't have to quote me. You can do your own research on that. But I believe to this day, that album has never sold even 500,000 copies. It might not have ever went gold as far as Billboard sound scans are related, which I don't even think that exists to this day now. But with that being said, you can take away the commercial success. You can beat down the messenger for your own personal reasons. You can even kill the messenger. But when the smoke cleared from all that, the message that they relayed to us still remains. And their message, which helped further and carry on a movement that was started by the likes of Public Enemy, KRS-One, Jungle Brothers, Big Daddy Kane, and Ice Cube. And then after Brand Nubian, it was further emphasized by groups such as Native Tongue, X-Clan, Gangstar, many others that proudly rose a black fist and taught the lessons that was meant to be taught. And the single, Wake Up, that's a song that kicked it off and perfectly personified that message, all in a nutshell. Now, that's going to conclude today's episode. We're going to go ahead and wrap this trip down memory lane up. And of course, we're going to hop back on that next week and move on to another classic song, another classic one that helped shape our hip-hop culture. So I'm going to go ahead and leave you with some words that I always like to leave you, and as well as myself. Stay great, but also stay humble in the process. And the lasting words I like to leave you with is by none other than Brand Nubian. And that is to move on, black man, move on. Move on, black man, move on. You gotta move on, black man, move on. You gotta move on, black man, move on.